Welcome to Fire and Ice, a show about controversial topics. Today we're going to be talking about self-defense and when it's warranted to actually use force. In force, we mean a gun to protect yourself. I'm Ice, also known as Sevag Tateosian.
And I'm Fire, known as Lorenzo Neal. And today, you're in for it.
Ice is going to be all over you today. Fire. There's been some cases on the media where we're talking about self-defense. A guy gets pinned down, gets his head slammed onto the ground, uses a gun, fires a bullet, and kills the intruder. Is that okay?
No, it's not okay. You know what? I'm listening to you. You probably need to be a little bit more clear. Are we talking about the Trayvon case? And when I look at this case, he wasn't an intruder. Didn't break into a man's home. So I don't know how you can say that's standing your ground when he didn't break into an individual's home.
Intruding
He's walking
on his personal space.
How can you consider this young man who's no longer with us, who doesn't have a voice, how can you consider that Trayvon intruded on someone's space when the guy was coming to him?
There was a time where one of the gentlemen's head was getting bashed into the sidewalk. I don't know about you, but if my head's getting bashed into the sidewalk and I have a gun, I'm going to fire that gun. And if it hits the person trying to bash my head into the sidewalk, then so be it. There comes a time when, in a fight, you have to withdraw. And in this case, the person who shot had every right to shoot.
And who is the person that you were talking about they shot?
In our hypothetical, it's a gentleman who had a concealed weapons permit.
Right, and here's what you have to realize. I get it, and I am not opposed to self-defense, and I think that people should be able to stand your ground, and I do believe that people should be able to use brutal force, deadly force if need be, especially if someone's going in a position where you feel like your life is being threatened. Usually in a fight, very rarely is someone's life taken in a fist fight. In the ring, sometimes, because it's a fist fight, even in MMA, very rarely someone dies. People get knocked unconscious. So you're making some very, very strong accusations that saying that his life was threatened. This is a grown man. That was a 17-year-old kid, took his life. This young man had parents. And I understand both parties are losing something in this. But when you watch this is a young man who was going to his parents' home, walking back from a store, and he was targeted. It was premeditated. It was profiling. It was wrong. And you before you go and talk about the fight, let's back up. In order to go forward, Ice, Fire, I'm Fire, you're Ice. In order to go forward, you have to go back. So when you look at this whole situation, he got on the phone, made a phone call, called 911, saying there's an intruder. He said there's a person that looks like they're going around getting ready to break in, and there's been burglaries around the area. The 911 call, the operator said, do not advance, we'll send over a police unit. Do not get out. Got out of the car anyway. Continued to follow this young man in his car, following, because he was black, because he had a hoodie on. And after he called him, they said, don't get out of your car, don't follow him, just tell us the street you're on, we're going to take it. Because he felt that this Trayvon was getting away, he decided to get out of his car. He decided to go up to this man, approach this young man, decided to put his hands on him, and he got hit. So, yeah, he should have got his butt kicked. When you go and you disobey, when the law tells you don't get out of the car, don't continue to fall, what street are you on? We're going to send somebody over. You disobey 5 or 6 times, then you get out of the car, then you approach someone, you try to grab them and apprehend them, and all of a sudden you're in a battle and you're on top, guys on top of you? Shame on you.
There are several points that I'd like to rebut in your situation, right? I'm tired of everybody saying he's a 17-year-old kid, he's a 17-year-old kid. I knew kids that were 17 and they were stronger than me. I'm 31 now, and there are some 17-year-olds out there that'll kick my butt. The age is irrelevant. Some people are built stronger, some people are built not as strong. At 17 years old, I wasn't muscular, I wasn't buff, but there were 17-year-old kids that were stronger than me. There were 17-year-old kids on the football field that were, you could tell, these kids were strong, like an adult. So his age is irrelevant because he looked like an adult when he was walking down the street.
His age is not irrelevant for a couple reasons. He's still a minor. Even though if you're stronger, if even if a kid is 17, you know what? The brain's not fully developed till you're 25 years old. So shame on you to say that this guy, just because he's a minor, and just because you say because he looks like he's a grown man, he might be stronger as a man, and you say that, hey, look, just because the kid's stronger means that gives him the right to be harassed, that gives him the right to be profiled, that gives him the right for someone to come after him, that gives him the right for someone to get out of the car after they repeated it, and 911 said, do not get out of the car, do not fall. The fight, I'm not even dealing with that because I understand. The kid overpowered him, maybe he was on top of him, we don't know. We're not here, we can't listen to Trayvon. He doesn't have a voice. But we know that we can listen to some of the things that were said. We know that he was followed. We know that he was repeatedly told not to get out of the car. Don't follow him, he still followed him. Approached him, told was not to approach him. We know that Trayvon was on the phone. Know that he had a hoodie. Know that he was still being sought after and being followed. Now, the fight's a byproduct. That fight would have never. So yeah, if that in that situation, I said, now if Trayvon was in this man's home or whatever, then yeah, I don't mind you using brutal force on this young man. But my point is, everything he did was wrong leading up to the fight. You called the police. You said there's been burglaries around the area. This guy's a suspect. He automatically assumed that Trayvon was a suspect. He automatically assumed this little black kid with the hoodie on was going to be stealing or breaking into someone's home. He automatically assumed that because if he didn't assume that, he wouldn't have got out of the car, he wouldn't have continued to follow him, and then he wouldn't have continued to walk up to this young man, and then he said that he ran away. Then when he was asked again, then he said he was skipping away. It just goes to show you that Trayvon was trying to leave the situation. He was pursued. Why was he hopping or why was he running away? Because this man came at him. Shame on you to think that this guy did not come at him. It's proven that Trayvon was retreating. He was trying to get away because this guy is following him. He didn't know.
There's been a lot of burglaries in the Fresno area, here in town, and all over the nation. In my neighborhood, if I see anybody, we're not talking about race, if I see anybody in the middle of the night with a hoodie on.
It wasn't in the middle of the night.
Walking.
It wasn't in the middle of the night.
In the evening.
So in the evening, if you see a black kid when it's raining outside walking in with hoodies, so he doesn't deserve to be walking on that street?
No, I'm not saying that.
He lived in the neighborhood. His parents lived in the neighborhood. So
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if it's
anybody
with a hoodie,
and it wasn't
late
wet,
at night.
It was late at night.
Walking down the street.
It wasn't late at night.
Anybody with a hoodie.
It was raining. He had a hood on.
Anybody.
It's black. You're
no,
profiling.
No,
yes,
no
it was.
profiling.
Then what was it?
No, not.
Why would you, if someone calls and you call the police and they said, do not follow, do not get out of the car, you disobeyed every single thing, and then you get out and then you approach someone because it's raining, so he had a hoodie on, he's on the phone, it's misty, it's whatever.
If I was sitting in my house or driving around my neighborhood, which has had several burglaries,
sure,
and it's dark, and there's someone with a hoodie wandering around my neighborhood that I don't recognize, I'm going to pursue that person, and I'm going to ask them, hey, what are you doing in my neighborhood? What can I help you with something?
So it's your neighborhood.
It's not. It's our neighborhood. It's our community.
So Trayvon didn't have the right to walk on the sidewalk is in his community. It was still in his community. It was his neighborhood. It's just much his street, the pavement. They pay taxes. His mom and dad's paying taxes in that neighborhood. They were living in that neighborhood as well.
If I'm walking in the middle of the night with a hoodie on and someone asks me, hey, Ice, what are you doing in the neighborhood? I'm going to turn around and say, I'm going to my mom's house. Thank you for checking. I want a neighborhood where everybody's safe as well. Thank you for checking on me, but I'm okay. Thank you very much. And that does it. I mean, we don't know what
We don't know what.
We don't know what his
We
intent
don't-
was in that neighborhood.
What was his intent? He was going
We don't
home.
know. We don't know what.
So you're. It's interesting how easy someone says a dead man, a dead kid has died, and everyone wants to bring a reasonable doubt. Then everyone wants to talk about this Trayvon. He was big, and this guy was fighting for his life. The horrible thing about this is, you were on the phone with the police. You told them what was going on. They told you don't pursue. You did it anyway. They tell you don't get out. You get out anyway. You continue to follow. You tell them what street you're on. They say someone's coming. Then you go and approach someone. This kid was minutes from being home, on a street, walking down a sidewalk, going to his house, just leaving the store, talking to his young lady on the phone. Someone comes up and tries to put his hands on him. And he tried, I just think, this young man, they repeatedly said that he ran away. Then he said he was skipping, trying to get away. What does that tell you? He did not. Did he have stolen merchandise on him? Did he steal anything? So everyone is.
But you're in a neighborhood where there's a bunch of crime going on.
You want to protect. You
want to protect the neighborhood. You want to protect the.
So it's fine then. It's fine. It's fine, Ice. This kid was killed. It's fine.
It's not fine.
That's what you're saying.
It's unfortunate.
It's unfortunate because this black kid was walking with the hoodie in the neighborhood. It's unfortunate that he's dead. It's okay.
We're talking about a hypothetical. We're not talking about the Zimmerman case.
Zimmerman. Wow, interesting. Now it comes out. Yeah.
We're not talking about that case.
Shame on you, Shame on you.
The bottom line is this. The bottom line is, if I'm in a fight with somebody, you and I fight each other, right? And you're down and you're bleeding, I'm gonna walk away because I've already won that fight. In our hypothetical, the person on the ground who fired the weapon had his head cut open with scars, bleeding. At some point, you say enough is enough.
Enough was enough when Mr. Zimmerman got out of the car. Enough was enough when Mr. Zimmerman repeatedly disobeyed the law enforcement when they said, don't do it. Enough's enough when they said, stay in your car, don't follow him. Enough's enough when they said, what street are you on? Now, all the other stuff, you're right. If you're hurt and the guy's, maybe he was fearing for his life, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But usually in a fight, guys don't beat people to death. Not many 17-year-olds beat people to death. They might beat them, but not to death. So when you ask me the question, is it okay for Mr. Zimmerman to use force? No, because he decided to take matters in his own hand, vigilante style. He wasn't standing his ground. He invaded. Actually, Trayvon was standing his ground because this man, he had just as much right to be on that street, that sidewalk.
Right, but if he would have stopped, if he would have said, I'm going to my mom's house, leave me alone, that would have been different.
How do you know he didn't say that?
There were no facts in our hypothetical.
He was on the phone with his girlfriend saying, what's going on? So what do you mean?
The area had heavy crime.
Heavy crime?
There was a lot of crime in the area, heavy crime. And this guy was trying to protect his neighborhood and make sure that crime wasn't happening there. We're running out of time this week, but I wish we had another half hour because this hypothetical is a very interesting one that we would continue.
I really wish we'd had another time too as well. Really do, Ice, for a couple reasons. I understand the fight is a fight. And my biggest disappointment in this whole thing with Mr. Zimmerman is he repeatedly disobeyed the law. He repeatedly disobeyed someone that was over him, that was giving him information. He was giving information and he was receiving information. Information that he was giving, there was someone in the neighborhood that looked like could be a suspicious person.
In a bad neighborhood with a lot of crime.
It wasn't a bad neighborhood. The neighborhood wasn't bad. There has been some burglaries.
Exactly. So it was a crime-ridden area.
So it was a crime-ridden area, if that's what you want to say, but it wasn't. The other has been burglaries. So my point to you is, Mr. Zimmerman was given information when he was receiving information. The information he gave was, hey, this guy looks suspicious. The information that we received back, okay, thank you, sir. What street? This is the street. So he gave information. The information was, I'm going to continue to follow him. Information received back to him, don't follow. Information that he received back to him, they said, don't get out of the car. He got out of the car. So information was, there was a dialogue. So Mr. Zimmerman made a conscious decision to get out of the car after following. He could have just followed him and find out what house he was going. He could have just followed this Trayvon. He could have seen where he went. He decided to take matters in his own hand. Next topic, we will definitely next week maybe continue this.
And he was almost out conscious with a split head, and he had to defend himself. Always a pleasure arguing with you, Fire. Always is a pleasure.
Thanks, Ice.
That's all for this edition of Fire and Ice. I'm Ice, also Sevag Tateosian.
And I'm Fire, Lorenzo Neal.
Tune in next week to a new topic where Fire and Ice fight away.